years King Amon reigned in Jerusalem. And to all the graven images that Manasseh his father had made, Amon sacrificed, and he continued serving them. Finally his servants conspired against him and put him to death in his own house. But the people of the land struck down all the conspirators and made Josiah his son king in place of him. "8 years old was Josiah when he began to reign, and in the 8th year of his reigning, while he was still a boy, he started to search for the God of David his forefather. And in the 12th year he started to cleanse Judah and Jerusalem."
Before dawn is the safest time for a wife of our young King Josiah to visit the foreign altars on the roof chamber of Ahaz.
Who speaks, Maacah? Asher, the priest from Jehovah's temple.
Yes, my lady Zobidah. There are Levites who say your royal husband Josiah has spent the last 4 years seeking to know Jehovah.
It is difficult for him because the book of the law which was in the temple is missing.
Yet he does listen to the prophet Zephaniah.
Zephaniah is the king's relative.
And Zephaniah tells the king, Jehovah will cut off those who are bowing down upon the roofs to the army of the heavens.
These are ancient altars. Almost no one knows they're here. My lady and I thought we would...
You thought you would try one small act of worship. Perhaps this tiny bit of incense to see how the altars work.
Zephaniah has also said Jehovah will cut off the name of the priests who do violence to the law. Remember that, priest.
Jehovah will do neither good nor bad to me or mine, Zobidah. But as for King Josiah, what will he do when he learns the mother of his firstborn son was found on this roof before that altar?
I wasn't bowing down to the army of the heavens.
Then you have nothing to fear from his learning.
Stop, Asher! What do you want from me?
There are princes, judges, prophets, and priests who serve Josiah's father and grandfather well.
Let them continue serving Josiah.
That may be hard if the king takes Zephaniah's words against them too seriously.
Shaphan is the royal secretary. He can tell you the king's mind on them better than I.
Shaphan is too extreme in his loyalty to Jehovah and king.
Hilkiah, the high priest, is with the king often.
Hilkiah places a stricter interpretation on Jehovah's will than I like.
What of the Levites who...
No! Zobidah, you must tell us how the king plans to act, or if he plans to act.
I don't know. Josiah doesn't tell Zobidah the confidential talk of his counselors.
Perhaps Zobidah can find out then.
Asher, Josiah has called a meeting with Hilkiah, Shaphan, and Ahikam at dawn.
Calm down, Beriah. You're out of breath.
Well, I always get out of breath going up to the high places. My lady, Zobidah.
Beriah, Prince of Judah, your Babylonian robes become you.
I have connections in Tyre with a merchant of Babylonian goods, and I could probably get you a good price if you want.
What is the urgency of Josiah's meeting?
Oh, yes. The case is urgent for us, Pasher. Jerusalem is filled with rumors that Josiah will decide today how he shall direct Judah. If Shaphan and Hilkiah and the king's cousin, what's his name?
Zephaniah.
Oh, yes, Zephaniah. If those zealots for Jehovah have their way, we'll be the laughingstock of every nation around us. They're fine brothers, but they have no spirit of compromise, Pasher. You and I will have to help Josiah understand that the only way God's people can live at peace with this world is to make compromises.
Did you hear, Zobidah? Compromise. Let us go pay our respects to the king.
Why has Josiah summoned us, Shaphan?
He knows there is wisdom in the multitude of counselors.
Perhaps he wants to repair the temple, Hilkiah, and needs your advice as high priest. Jehovah's house has been abused and neglected since King Hezekiah's death.
There is no money for it, Hilkiah. Princes, priests, and the people collect silver and gold for themselves, but no money for Jehovah's service.
As long as Judah wants to carry on as the nations, can we expect anything else?
Perhaps he has found the book of the law which Moses himself wrote.
No, that book is still missing from the temple, Ahikam.
Perhaps he's frightened at Zephaniah's prediction about Judah's destruction. Maybe he wants to know when Jehovah's day of fury will be.
Do you know?
No.
Then why don't we wait and not speculate?
Yes, Father.
My brothers! My brothers!
Peace be with you, my brothers.
We had heard Josiah might make a decision of some importance today.
You two shouldn't have wakened so early in the morning.
Nonsense. It's my duty to advise the king. And don't forget, I loyally supported his grandfather Manasseh and his poor assassinated father Amon. Why, I myself, Beriah, encouraged the people of the land to set Josiah on the very throne he occupies today.
You have been loyal, Beriah.
King Josiah.
But loyal to what? Or to whom?
I have done as much as anyone to make Judah what it is today.
What is Judah today, Beriah?
Judah today? What's a land where we've learned to adapt to the nations around us. We don't reject their customs, or their dress, or practices, so unreasonably as some would have us to do. And in turn, the nations do not reject us.
The question is not the nation's rejection of us. The question is, does Jehovah reject us?
The people still make sworn oaths to Jehovah.
And the same people make sworn oaths by Molech, the disgusting thing of the Ammonites. Can Jehovah indefinitely put up with his people's hearts being divided in worship to him?
Jehovah has not acted to the good or to the bad.
Are you saying that Molech does act, Pasher? The people passed their sons and daughters through the fire to Molech at Topheth in the valley of the sons of Hinnom. Is that Molech's way of acting to the good?
Zephaniah says Jehovah will cut off those serving Molech, as well as those who are drawing back from following Jehovah.
We don't serve Molech, young man.
Produce your witnesses if you say we do. Produce witnesses, or keep quiet.
I believe that Zephaniah speaks from Jehovah.
Zephaniah also says Jehovah will stretch out his hand against Judah, Moab, Ammon, and Assyria.
The Assyrians have destroyed nations for smaller threats.
You don't believe Jehovah's judgment is against Judah, Beriah?
I tell you, Zephaniah is wrong. Jehovah would never include his own people in a judgment against the nations.
But if we, Jehovah's people, look and act and worship like all the nations, how will Jehovah tell us apart from them at his judgment, Beriah?
We have his temple in our midst.
A temple whose repairs have been neglected for almost 70 years.
Beriah, you say Jehovah will not throw off his people.
Yes.
Yet he permitted King Manasseh, my grandfather, to be imprisoned by the Assyrians. My father Amon was murdered.
All those things happen to every nation.
Are Jehovah's people to be like every nation? Hilkiah mentions temple repairs we don't make. Why?
There is no money for it.
Still, I see princes and judges, and some of the priests, richly dressed, building houses and planting vineyards.
Prosperity is from Jehovah.
Jehovah does not prosper the powerful at the expense of the poor and afflicted ones, Pasher.
Nor does Jehovah pervert the legal claims of the poor so that princes can dress in foreign attire.
If you're referring to my wearing a Babylonian robe, Ahikam, someone paid his legal debt to me.
Probably sold himself into slavery.
And I purchased something more colorful.
Enough! For 4 years I have been seeking to know Jehovah, inquiring of him, listening to the Levites expound from their copies of the book of the law, studying Jehovah's dealings with us in the books of the kings of Judah and Israel.
Have you come to know Jehovah now, Josiah?
I have learned, Hilkiah, that Jehovah does not tolerate the high places or the altars of the Baals.
Your forefathers, Asa, Jehoshaphat, and Hezekiah, pulled down the high places during their reigns, my lord.
Jehovah blessed and prospered all the kingdom under their rules.
My lord, the king,
Speak, Pasher.
I will admit your forefathers were wholehearted men and did pull down the high places. However, the people rebuilt them each time. It could be a hopeless gesture to attack them now.
An expensive gesture, too. If we can't afford to repair the temple, how could we afford to pull down high places?
Can we continue risking Jehovah's anger, Beriah, by tolerating the high places?
The high places aren't so bad. I've been to some of them myself. Oh, only to observe, mind you. And all they do is offer incense, maybe a small sacrifice.
What of the sex worship it is said they carry on at the high places?
Oh, you don't have to pay attention to all that immoral sex, if you don't want to.
How dare you stand before the king and the high priest, glorifying your closeness to the nations?
Well, I have an open mind.
A mind open to what, Beriah? Doing Jehovah's will, or the will of the nations?
And what sort of a question is this you're asking me?
Jehovah's people must take their stand for Jehovah. Write this down, Shaphan.
My pen is ready.
Judah and Jerusalem shall be cleansed from the high places, and the sacred poles, and the graven images, and the molten statues. Afterwards, we shall go to the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simeon, and clear to Naphtali, cleansing the land.
The Assyrian Empire rules that territory now.
Assyrian Empire?
If we are doing Jehovah's will, what do we have to fear from anyone?
But Assyria is so great, and Judah is so small.
Beriah, you don't oppose the king, do you?
Well, oppose the king? Never.
I am told there are ones who will put the high places back up after we have torn them down.
Our history confirms it.
Let us be thorough. The sacred poles, the graven images, and the molten statues shall be broken in pieces.
Pieces might possibly be repaired.
There's no way to separate ourselves from the nations.
They shall be reduced to powder, and the powder sprinkled on the surface of the burial places of those who used to sacrifice to them. And the bones of priests I shall burn upon their altars.
It is written, my lord.
So let us do it, and may Jehovah discern by our deeds and our hearts that his people are not as the nations. Perhaps we may be concealed in the day of his anger.
And so Josiah went pulling down the altars and the sacred poles, and the graven images he crushed and reduced to powder, and all the incense stands he cut down in all the land of Israel, after which he returned to Jerusalem. And in the 18th year of his reigning he sent Shaphan to repair the house of Jehovah his God. Also the word of Jehovah occurred in those days to Jeremiah, one of the priests that were in Anathoth, in the land of Benjamin.
It's been 6 years now since Josiah took a stand for Jehovah against the Baals. And
And for 6 years, Pasher and Beriah have kept you fearful they would tell the king you were once before the foreign altars.
I knew it was wrong, Maacah, but I was curious.
Shaphan says, a person whose heart is fixed on Jehovah isn't even curious about wrongdoing.
I wish I knew where my heart was.
My lady, tell Josiah now what happened. He'll understand.
I'm afraid, Maacah. Pasher asked me to find out how far Josiah plans to act on the preaching of that young priest Jeremiah.
And
I refuse.
Pasher may try anything. Please, confess to the king and trust in Jehovah's mercy.
I'm not sure my heart is really complete with Jehovah.
Pasher and Beriah are coming, my lady. You mustn't let them see you weeping.
Still, I have to speak with Josiah.
Let's go away for a few minutes. Once you feel better, we'll come back.
I keep telling you, Pasher, the purge by the king was severe, but not nearly as severe as we thought. As a priest, you know yourself that the utensils made for Baal, the sacred pole, even the army of the heavens are still in Jehovah's temple.
And the sacred pole of Manasseh is still there, along with the houses for the male temple prostitutes.
I tell you, Pasher, this young King Josiah is smart. On the one hand, he satisfies those who insist Judah worship only Jehovah, while on the other hand, he leaves in business the foreign god priests that his forefathers established so that the worshippers of the gods of the nations won't be too shocked.
The king has begun to pour gold and silver into repairing the temple. Will his reforms end there?
Are there any more reforms left? Or are you worrying that they might find the book of the law? It's been lost so long. I wonder even if Moses ever wrote it in the first place.
You laugh, but you don't wear your foreign robes anymore.
I may have changed my way of dress to please the king, but inside, I'm the same man I always was. Mark my words, Pasher. A man's outward ways are changed more easily than his heart.
Nevertheless, the more Josiah pushes ahead, the more dangerous it becomes for many of our friends. And for us. And don't forget, despite Josiah's reforms, that priest from Anathoth, Jeremiah, is preaching Jerusalem still worships the Baals.
Hilkiah's high priest. Tell him to keep this Jeremiah in line.
Hilkiah agrees with him.
Zobidah won't tell you anything about Jeremiah's influence on the king?
That may change.
Oh?
Her son Eliakim is not even half-hearted in his devotion to Jehovah. Zobidah's been hiding it from Josiah to protect the boy.
Good mother. It's a shame Josiah might not see it that way.
Now, listen. We have to prevent the king from spending too extravagantly on the temple.
Oh, yes. With all the money coming into Judah these days, you hate to have it all spent on Jehovah's service.
Jehath and Obadiah, Zechariah and Meshullam are overseeing the mending and repairing of Jehovah's house.
Each one a Levite and a faithful man. Do they lack for anything?
They lack nothing. And still there is the money which the Levites have gathered from all the people.
Ah, Beriah. Didn't you tell me 6 years ago we could not afford to pull down the high places and repair the temple?
It will all be soon spent, too, if you don't watch every shekel.
Jehovah's hand is not short with those whose hearts are completely fixed on his worship, Beriah.
Are you lacking anything, Beriah?
Beriah is a businessman, my lord. He only suggests we must make the builders and the overseers be made to give an accounting of the money. Perhaps having someone responsible approve everything.
Or they could easily enrich themselves at the temple's expense.
What someone responsible do you have in mind?
I could myself assure that not one shekel too much is spent.
Tell me, Pasher, are Jehath and Obadiah, Zechariah and Meshullam faithful men, as well as all those who are working with them at repairing Jehovah's house?
They may well be.
You know those are faithful men, Pasher. Men loving Jehovah and hating what is bad.
Are not all of Jehovah's people brothers? Doesn't our trusting one another as brothers set us apart from the nations?
Answer the king, Pasher.
It can be dangerous to trust your brothers.
And expensive.
Nevertheless, you admit those of our brothers repairing the temple are faithful men.
As you say, Shaphan.
Then you do trust them, Pasher.
There are those who wouldn't.
I am one who does. Shaphan, go up to Hilkiah the high priest, and let him complete the money that is being brought into the house of Jehovah, that the doorkeepers have gathered from the people. And let them put it into the hand of those doing the work, the appointed ones, to buy timber and hewn stones to repair the house.
As the king will.
Only, Shaphan, no accounting should be taken of the money with them into whose hands it is being put. For it is in faithfulness that they are working.
So be it.
Zobidah,
My husband and king.
get up, Zobidah?
My lady Zobidah looks troubled. Is her son Eliakim well?
Well, I've seen him only yesterday, Pasher, and the boy was quite well.
Pasher, weren't you and Beriah leaving?
May you have peace.
Yes, may you have peace.
Well, you're trembling, Zobidah. Do Pasher and Beriah frighten you? Or is it Shaphan?
Do not hold back, my lady.
Bring the king wine, Maacah. He is tired.
Please, my lady, speak to him.
The wine, Maacah?
Yes, my lady.
Yes, I am tired, Zobidah. But my weariness does not explain your trembling a few moments ago.
I'm worried for you. You've done so much. And now Jeremiah has come with his prophesying to say Jehovah demands more. Will you listen to him?
Jeremiah says Jehovah sees the people stealing, murdering, committing adultery, making sacrificial smoke to Baal, and walking after other gods whom they have not known. Then they stand before Jehovah in his house, upon which his name has been called, and say, "We shall certainly be delivered," in the face of doing all these detestable things. Has the house upon which Jehovah's name has been called become a mere cave of robbers in their eyes?
My lord, there are customs of worship and tradition and beliefs so ancient, the people don't think of them as turning them away from Jehovah.
Now you sound like Pasher.
Pasher?
A dangerous man who tries to twist Jehovah's law to his own advantage.
If he is so wicked, why don't you kill him?
Jehovah's law requires proof. At least 2 eyewitnesses.
You just said Pasher was a dangerous man.
And I mark him such. He doesn't figure among my intimate acquaintances. Be careful of him, Zobidah.
Yes, my lord. I shall.
Remember, though, as long as you stand close to Jehovah, he will keep close to you. If your heart is fixed on his worship, you need never fear any man.
Oh, Josiah, if only I could. If only I could.
Peace, my son Ahikam. I heard I could find you here in the west gate of the temple.
Oh, Father, peace be to you. Jeremiah was just here.
Jeremiah? What did he say about the state of the people?
He spoke about a circumcision of the heart, Father. He said we must learn to carry out justice between a man and his companion. The alien resident, the fatherless boy, and the widow must not be oppressed. No innocent blood should be shed in this place, and we must not walk after other gods. Are these still practices, Father?
In spite of all our work, the people's hearts are divided in their worship. They feel mere attendance at the temple is sufficient to worship Jehovah.
Should they come to the temple?
Of course. But being separate from the nations is not simply moving from formal worship at high places to meeting together at the temple. Separateness from the nations is a condition of heart and a righteous course of conduct.
Shaphan! Shaphan! The very book of the law I have found in the house of Jehovah.
The book of the law!
Look!
And it must occur that if you will without fail listen to the voice of Jehovah your God, by being careful to do all his commandments that I am commanding you today, Jehovah your God also will certainly put you high above all other nations of the earth. And all these blessings must come upon you and overtake you, because you keep listening to the voice of Jehovah your God. And it must occur that if you will not listen to the voice of Jehovah your God, by taking care to do all his commandments and his statutes that I am commanding you today, all these maledictions must also come upon you and overtake you, until you have been annihilated, and they must continue on you and your offspring, due to the fact you did not serve Jehovah your God with rejoicing and joy of heart for the abundance of everything. And you will have to serve your enemies whom Jehovah will send against you, with hunger and thirst, and nakedness, and the want of everything.
We have sinned against Jehovah.
Shall I read more?
Please give me the book. You take Hilkiah the priest, and Ahikam your son, and Akbor, and Josiah.
Yes, my lord.
Go, inquire of Jehovah in my own behalf, and in behalf of the people, and in behalf of all Judah, concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is Jehovah's rage that has been set afire against us over the fact that our forefathers did not listen to the words of this book by doing according to all that is written concerning us.
My Lord Pasher, the book of the law has been discovered.
The book of the law?
My lady Zobidah was talking to Maacah. I overheard and came straight to tell you. The king is reading through the book carefully.
Have you heard? The king is...
I know what the king is doing. Continue, Ahinoam.
Anyway, the king sent 5 faithful men to Huldah the prophetess, who lives in the second quarter of the city.
And what did Huldah tell them?
That is all I know, my lord.
Zobidah's servant betrays you by sending you news that everybody knows.
What?
The king's delegation has already returned from Huldah the prophetess.
What did she say?
Well, she said, Jehovah promises that during Josiah's lifetime, the curses in the book will not occur.
What? With Jeremiah's preaching and this? The people might stand behind Josiah if he decides to act.
Well, perhaps someone will assassinate him, as was done to his father.
If any of his sons were king, we might get back to the way things were before.
Then you better act. The king is sending and gathering to himself all the people, from small to great.
Where are they to gather?
At the temple.
That is where we shall go. Ahinoam!
She's gone.
We'll deal with her and Zobidah later.
Have you finished copying the book?
I have, Zobidah.
Do you really think that by your obeying the law, the people will change?
Zobidah, all my life I have searched for the God of David, my forefather, in order to know him.
Do you know Jehovah now? Does knowing Jehovah only mean turning your back on the nations?
Knowing Jehovah means loving Jehovah. It means to hate what is bad and love what is good. Above all, we, the people who bear his name, should be clean. Being that alone makes us different.
You won't make people change in their hearts.
True, but I can show them how Jehovah wants worship from a complete heart. Then they'll have to take their own stand.
My Lord...
Zobidah, is it really in your heart to serve Jehovah along with me? What is in your heart?
My Lord, I have betrayed you and Jehovah.
Pasher?
6 years ago, he found me on the roof chamber of Ahaz, where the altars are. Maacah had a bit of incense in her hand. He said he would expose us. I was only curious. I should have stayed away.
Is that all?
Our son Eliakim...
He is rebellious and does not want to serve Jehovah.
You knew?
Oh, I am a father, too.
I tried to hide his attitude from you. Then Pasher... Oh, Josiah... I hid when the servant girl heard them speak of killing you. Oh, forgive me. For it is against Jehovah I have sinned, and you I have wronged.
Jehovah has shown tender mercy to me. Can I show any less to you, my loved Zobidah?
The people are assembled, Josiah.
Are you ready?
I am ready. For this day Jehovah's people shall take a stand for Jehovah before all the earth. Let the nations know we are not and shall not be as they are.
There will be opposition.
Jehovah sustains his loyal ones.
There are princes and priests and prophets who will turn against you.
Will not Jehovah give us courage, Shaphan, if we give him our whole heart?
He will, my lord.
May Jehovah guard you, Josiah.
Don't worship Jehovah because of me, or by obedience to me, Zobidah, but because you have given your whole heart to worship him.
After that, the king went up to the house of Jehovah, and also with him all the people, from small to great. And he began to read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of Jehovah. And the king kept standing by the pillar, and now concluded the covenant before Jehovah, to walk after Jehovah, and to keep his commandments, and his testimonies, and his statutes with all the heart, and with all the soul, by carrying out the words of this covenant that were written in this book. Accordingly, all the people took their stand in the covenant.
Look, all the people are supporting him.
Why not? I took my stand too.
You?
I thought, I can go along with the king as long as he is alive. If the kingdom is destroyed, as Josiah fears it will be, I'll be on the safe side.
And if it isn't destroyed?
If it isn't destroyed, as soon as the king dies, we can go back to the ways of the people before he started this.
You're right. Taking a stand in that crowd of worshipers was easy. I felt good saying amen to the covenant, as long as that's all I had to do.
Asher, Beriah, are you with me?
As my heart was before, so it is still, my lord Josiah.
Why, we've both took our stand for the covenant today, as you said.
Then we shall cleanse this land and this house, and make it possible for all who worship Jehovah to worship him acceptably.
You have already cleansed the house and the land.
Did you not hear the book, Pasher? Hilkiah,
Yes, Josiah.
the temple will be cleansed completely.
I have longed many years to hear those words.
Shaphan, right. The utensils made for Baal and the sacred pole and the army of the heavens, take them out. Hilkiah and the priests of the second rank and the doorkeepers will take them and burn them outside Jerusalem and make them dust.
And the foreign god priests?
Put them out of business.
There's a sacred pole King Manasseh put into the house of Jehovah.
Take it to the valley of Kidron. Burn it. Grind it to dust. Cast its dust upon the burial places of the sons of the people. And those houses of the male temple prostitutes that are in the house of Jehovah,
Yes, my lord?
pull them down.
But that is everything. What of the worshipers from the nations who...
Did you take your stand with the others?
Yes.
There is more to interest you, Beriah.
The high places from Geba as far as Beersheba, we shall make them unfit for worship.
Even so.
And Topheth, which is in the valley of the sons of Hinnom, it shall be made unfit for worship, that no one may make his son or daughter pass through the fire to Molech.
There are chariots to the sun, which the kings of Judah put into the house of Jehovah.
Burn them in fire.
Oh, Josiah, what a joyful day that all the people are with you and with Jehovah.
Your coming reminds me, Zobidah. Shaphan, right. And this should interest you, Pashur.
Me, my lord?
The altars that are on the roof of Ahaz's roof chamber that the kings of Judah had made,
Yes?
pull them down, crush them, cast their dust into the torrent valley of Kidron. The altars that Manasseh had made and the high places that Solomon built to Ashtoreth, and to Chemosh and to Milcom, make them unfit for worship.
Do you realize what you're saying?
Jehovah's people, all of his people will be able to worship Jehovah exclusively as their hearts move them.
There are worshippers of Jehovah in Israel to the north of Judah.
In Assyrian territory.
Assyria is fighting for its own life.
You would not
We went to Israel before, clear to Naphtali. This time it will be complete. Shaphan,
Yes, my lord?
prepare the men for work.
Will you really go to Israel and tear down the altar to the golden calf that is in Bethel?
We shall take the bones from the burial places and burn them on that altar, and make it unfit for worship. All the high places in the cities of Samaria shall be removed, and the priests of the high places will be killed. Are you standing for Jehovah, Ahikam?
With all my heart.
Go. I'll join the men soon.
Jehovah be with you, Josiah.
And with you, Ahikam.
What of men like Pashur and Beriah? Will you leave them unpunished?
Jehovah will judge each one of us for what is in our hearts. He will most certainly judge the likes of Beriah and Pashur.
And our son?
We may do all we can to help him, but our son, too, will have to stand before Jehovah for what is in his heart.
May Jehovah grant you strength for the work, Josiah.
And may Jehovah grant all his people strength to stand for him with a complete heart, separate from the world.
So Josiah removed all the detestable things out of all the lands that belonged to the sons of Israel. And he had all those who were found in Israel take up service to serve Jehovah their God. All his days they did not turn aside from following Jehovah, the God of their forefathers.